Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Rob Evans 365. This is day number 404, and today we're going to talk about high energy food. I want to know though, how have you been traveling? Each day we're just stepping it up just a little bit more, giving you a little bit more focus each day. And so how did you go yesterday with your protein? So I know that can challenge people to do things differently. But change is what most people want, because I'm sure if you polled yourself right now, you would say, well, do you want a better version of yourself physically, mentally, energetically, productively, health-wise? And I would be surprised if we had a stadium full of people that 100% of people didn't raise their hands to say, yep, I want a better version of myself, a better level of health, just a sexier version, a leaner, more muscular, whatever it is, more athletic version of themselves. So everybody wants more. We're all searching for that extra, I want more. And so that doesn't just happen. It takes effort, it takes concentration, it takes focus. And the only way that you're going to be able to achieve that is with some hard work. So, thank you. Good, thank you. Just crossing a lollipop school crossing. So it requires effort on your part. Now, if you haven't been getting enough protein and you say, oh, well, I'm not going to bother, then just realize that I've been doing this for over 30 years. I know what you need to do. I know what works in terms of, just feeling good about yourself, whether it's overall health, whether it's your energy, productivity, athletic performance, concentration, you name it. Protein becomes a critical part of it. Weight loss, if I hadn't already said that, it's so fundamental. So you've got to trust me that these things work. They're based on science, not just something I've been experimenting with. It is based on science and works. So you've just got to step up and say, yep, I'm going to do this because I know that it works. I have faith and a belief in me, in knowing that, yes, this will work. You've just got to start doing it. So today, moving on, I want to piece in together the next element of your food, which is that high energy food. So I split out my high energy food I have mentioned it in the other days where we talked about plant-based food, but in your fruits, probably your bananas, your high energy food. In terms of your vegetables, it's probably your potato, whether it's white potato, sweet potato, that is also a high energy food. But generally speaking, outside of the plant-based food, we're talking about things like your rice, like grains, pastas, rolled oats, bread, quinoa, things like couscous, those types of foods. That's where we get our high energy from. That's the good sources of it. Now, where most of us tend to get a lot of our high energy food from, our high energy sources from food, are things like processed stuff. So it might be a lot of breaded, I say breaded with an ET on the end, breaded products, whether they be, like crumbed fish or crumbed chicken or beef. It might be from, the pastries around things. Bread rolls, hamburger rolls, white rolls, cakes, that kind of stuff that involve a lot of flour and therefore a lot of high energy stuff. But it's also very processed, so not good for us. So that's why we want to always try and stick to as close to nature as we can get with these products. So that's why, for me personally, most of my high energy food comes from things like brown rice, even some white rice, because I just like a bit of a change from time to time. So that's where I get most of mine from. Now, what's really important with the high energy is that we need high energy. Now, the problem that I have with diets such as, just a high protein diet or a keto diet or the Atkins diet or some of these other ones, the Hollywood diet, a lot of like bodybuilding diets and so forth are very high in protein and at various times can be low in carbs. So it's particularly the bodybuilding one at certain times, but things like keto and even the paleo one to some extent, they restrict the intake of certain key nutrients that we need for our overall sustainable, optimized health. Now, this is the tip that I give you. If there is any diet or meal plan that you are provided that restricts you in terms of major nutrients, then don't even bother, because anything that's eliminating or drastically restricting the amount of a macronutrient that you can have, it's just got red flags waving all over it to say, well, why are you doing that? Now, we need to make sure that we are getting in high energy food. It's not that our bodies don't need it, our bodies need it. So why would you go on something like on a long-term basis like keto to lose weight when you're restricting so much of your high energy food? What does that tell you? At some point, you're going to run out of what? High energy. So that's why I don't like those styles of diets, because they're restrictive in a way that's not in accordance with the Australian guidelines to healthy eating. And yes, maybe the Australian guidelines to healthy eating are not 100% correct, but remember, they are guidelines, and the guidelines include about 2/3 of your plate is made up of veggies, and then the rest of your plate is made up of some fruits, a very small slither of fats, some protein, and some high energy food. The problem is that most people tend to make up most of their plate with the high energy food, and the easiest way to give you a visual of that is like a pasta dish. Like, if you have a pasta dish, what's most of the dish? Well, it's the pasta. That makes up most of the plate, and then you've got some sort of sauce on top of it. Even if it's a bolognese sauce, it's probably not got enough protein in it, but maybe it does, but it's certainly not going to have enough plant-based food in there. Oh yeah, people would say, oh yeah, well, it's got tomatoes in there and I put plenty of vegetables in it. It's not going to have enough for what you need. So that's a typical meal where you get it, the other way around. If you go out somewhere, let's just say, I don't know what they call it in Europe, but like a pub here, where you go out for a pub meal, and a common one here in Australia is a chicken parmigiana. You have this massive piece of chicken that's fried and crumbed, so too much protein to start with, but also very high in fat and probably high energy as well, because the amount of crumbs that they put in these things to then deep fry them. And then it's surrounded most of the plate with chips. So it's got, your creamy, not creamy, your cheese, like this is going to be creamy, but it's got your tomato sauce on top of there with your, your cheese. So it's high fatty cheese. And then you've got all these chips surrounding the plate. So a lot of high energy food with a tiny salad, if any at all. So again, the meal is back to front. It should be massive salad, way smaller piece of chicken than a chicken parma. Take off the fat, and no chips. Get a small baked potato or something like that. So this is where we get it wrong traditionally around the world. So I'm going to give you some guidelines as to what it is with the high energy food, when you get it in, what it is that you get in, how we properly do it. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is that we, for breakfast, lunch and dinner, just like with the protein, that is the general guide when I put somebody on a plan as to when they're going to be getting in their high energy food. And it's getting in a measured portion of it. So if we use the example that I used yesterday of somebody that's on about a 1200 calorie plan, that's maybe wanting to lose 5 to 20 plus kilos, then you can use these guides for that. So in the morning, we're getting in our protein, as I said yesterday. We're getting in some plant-based food, and we're also wanting to get in some high energy food. So how could you do that? Well, if it was an omelette, for instance, you could say, well, we could put that on a slice of wholemeal toast. Okay, there's your high energy food. It could be with, and I'm going to keep it simple here so you can relate to the serving sizes, but like a sachet of rolled oats. That might be another alternative with the omelette. So you don't mix it all together. You'd have the omelette, then eat the oats. But that would give you an idea of the serving size. Then if we went forward to lunchtime, it might be a wrap, or 2 slices of wholemeal bread, something like that. Not the white, so we don't want to get the white bread in there because it's white bread, it's refined flour, it's not a great option for us. We want to be getting something that's more filling and less refined, less processed. Something like that. Or it could be, often with a salad, we might put in, say a quarter of a cup of croutons made out of wholemeal bread that you could just make yourself. Or it might be, or let's just say 100 grams of, say, some sweet potato that's been roasted or baked or steamed and diced up and put into your salad. Something like that, for instance. Or if you're having, you could be having a chicken stir fry or something like that for lunch. And in that case, what I would suggest you do is have, it's going to be somewhere between half a cup to certainly no more than a cup. For most people on the 1200 calories, you'll be looking at a half to 3/4 of a cup of, something like brown rice or white rice, something like that. And then for your dinner, it could be something similar. You're looking at somewhere between, as you'll measure, half to a maximum of a cup of your high energy food, whether it be rice, whether it be potato, whether it be pasta, couscous, angel hair pasta, that kind of thing. For me personally, I'm having about half a cup. Maximum of a cup on a day that I might do a workout, but I'm doing around about half a cup, and I find that serves me really well. Now, when you're making these adjustments for the first time, you can find that there is this brain-tummy kind of connection, and you think the only way that I can get satisfied is if I have that, that higher energy food, and you think, oh well, I'm still hungry, so I'll go and have more bread, or I'll have maybe it's chips that you're eating or pasta or whatever. You feel drawn to that. The reality is that it's probably the plant-based food and the protein that you've been down on a little bit, or that's where you should be going to first to fill up on those elements before doing anything to do with the high energy. Because you do have to allow your stomach 10 to 15 minutes to adjust. I know if you're really hungry and you're wolfing a meal down, then you can feel like, oh, I'm still hungry, I just need to get more of this in, and then you find like maybe an hour later that it all kind of comes crashing down into your stomach, and it's like, oh wow, no, I think I've overdone it a little. You never want to get to that stage where you feel over full. That's not a good feeling to have. So you don't want to live like that. More plant-based food. So this is a very important element, and when it comes to your other snacks, I say no high energy food in those. So just stick to it for breakfast, lunch and dinner, those elements that I told you. And for your snacks, that's when you want to be getting in your plant-based food and or some protein, but generally no other high energy food. If you live by those principles, then you'll find that your overall, let's say you're on a weight loss journey, your overall calories will come down because you'll find that you're, say, in the afternoon not going for that high calorie snack. You're not going for a morning tea muffin or something which could have 400 or more calories in it, and you're having, say, a piece of fruit, and you've all of a sudden, well, let's just use that as an example. So the supermarkets here, they'll sell, those big muffins, or if you're going to a shop like Wendy's or a bakery or something where they've got those really big muffins, you're looking at 400 plus calories normally in one of those. I know that sounds, if you've got a sense of calories, that sounds enormous, but you'll be surprised at how many calories are in those things. Let's say you're having one of those for breakfast, or not for breakfast, say morning tea, but instead you decide to have an apple. Well, you've gone from 400 calories down to about 87. Okay, massive difference, 300 calories. Now, to put that in perspective, you probably need to be walking for, probably about an hour and a half or so to burn off those additional calories just by consuming the muffin. So just by making those simple, smarter choices, you'll find that naturally you're just losing more fat, you're becoming more healthy, because you have all this refined sugar and flour and rubbish in your system, and it plays havoc with you. You'll feel horrible, you feel like you're having these ups and downs in your blood sugar, and it's not good. It's not good for your energy level, it's not good for your productivity. And as I've been saying for some time on the podcast now, these things will show up in your health I'm going to really generalize here, but probably 30 to 45 plus years later. So you can get away with it right now in doing living like that. So I'm going to have a muffin a day because I really enjoy them and I'm slim and it doesn't matter. But remember, it's about your health, and you don't know what traces these things are leaving behind. And consuming that much sugar is not a great thing, and it's going to put you in a much higher risk of having type 2 diabetes, cancer, other heart-related illnesses as well. It's not worth it. It's really not. It's not to say that you can never have these things. I'm talking about your everyday life and making sure that you have a sustainable way of living and eating. And apologies about the wind. It's a really windy spell here at the moment, these last few days. So that's the way that I want you to think about it. And so live by those principles, and you will find that the way that you feel starts to completely change. So let's have a final recap for the last, 5 days now. We're moving more, you're 10%, make sure you're doing that. Making sure that you're getting in your fruits as snacks instead of processed foods throughout the day. Make sure you're getting enough plant-based food in, 3 to 5 serves of that each day. So breakfast, lunch and dinner, maybe throughout the day as well if you need to squeeze some more in. Making sure you're getting your right amount of protein. So we talked about 100 grams of your weighed, chicken, beef, fish, whatever it is, getting that in. And then making sure that you're getting the right amount of high energy food in there as well. So the high energy food, 1/4 of a cup up to maximum of a cup of things like rice, pasta, potato, quinoa, rolled oats, those types of things. And then keep doing it. Another 7 to 10 days. And just notice the difference. And if you are already following a meal plan, maybe this is just to give you that little bit of extra focus and say, well, actually, I was following it, but now I've gone a little bit off. Maybe use this as an opportunity for you to, regain some of that focus. Really important, regain that focus and consistency. So that's me out for today. We'll talk tomorrow, and tomorrow I haven't yet decided what we're going to talk about. We'll either talk about fats or we'll talk about some resistance training or cardio training. All right, see you soon.